human rights defenders in Uganda. Please join me wholeheartedly and very warmly in welcoming our chief guest. Our chairperson, who is our host, Mrs. Margaret Ssekajja. You are indeed very welcome to your event. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Ssekajja. We have an alternate chair who will be taking the chair position for the day. Mr. Okwalinga, who is also a board member. Mr. Okwalinga, you're indeed very welcome, right there. Our CEO, our Executive Director, Mr. Robert Chirenga, thank you very much for hosting us, and thank you for such a beautiful room. You will agree with me, it is so beautiful. Our keynote speaker, Annabelle, good morning. Annabelle is our keynote speaker. She's here. Robert will introduce her. Annabelle, you are indeed very, very welcome. We would also like to acknowledge in a very special way our discussant. Very well known to us, Professor Ndebesa. You are indeed welcome. Please join me in welcoming Professor Ndebesa. At some point, they'll pull down their masks and we'll see who exactly they are. We are now ready to start. We have our program. We will start with a national anthem and a prayer. After that, we will invite our host, the Executive Director, Mr. Chirenga, to welcome you officially, to welcome our guests, and to also introduce and welcome our chairperson, Mrs. Margaret Ssekajja, who will officiate for us to adopt the agenda and then also make her communication. So we shall stand up in a very mighty way. Let us pray. Father in heaven, we want to thank you so much for this day. This is the day that you have made, and we shall be glad and rejoice in it. We want to thank you that we are alive. We want to thank you that we are here. We want to thank you for our guests. We want to thank you for all those that have traveled far and near. Thank you for the journey mercies and for the safety. Father, we put this meeting into your hands, that whatever we shall deliberate will be for the good of our coalition and for the good of our country and for the good of all human rights defenders. Thank you, God. In your name we have prayed. Amen. You may now take your seats. I would now like, in a very special way, please join me in welcoming Robert. Mr. Robert Chirenga is the Executive Director of the National Coalition. Robert is our host this morning. Robert, come and welcome the members, come and welcome our guests, and come and welcome the chairperson. Please join me again in welcoming Robert.
Thank you, our Director of Ceremonies, Madam Sheila Mwanga. My task is a simple one. It's to first of all introduce to you our guests, and I will begin with our chief guest, who is none other than Her Excellency Ambassador Karin Boven, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to the Republic of Uganda. You're most welcome, Ambassador Karin Boven. We also have our keynote presenter, that's Mrs. Annabelle Okoto-Gwang. Mrs. Annabelle Okoto-Gwang is the country director of Diaconia. I suppose most of you know her because Diaconia is a partner to many of our institutional members. You're most welcome, Madam Annabelle. I would like also to introduce the discussant, who is none other than Professor Ndebesa Mwambusya from the Makerere University, Kampala. You're most welcome, Professor Ndebesa. I would also like to welcome a member of the board, who is also the Chief Executive Officer of the Uganda Law Society, Mr. Moses Okwalinga. You're most welcome, Mr. Moses Okwalinga. I would now like to also welcome my boss and supervisor, Mrs. Margaret Ssekajja, who is the chairperson of the Executive Board of the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders, and also the Executive Director of the Human Rights Center, Uganda. You're most welcome, madam. Our chief guest, Ambassador Karin Boven of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, members of the international community present, Our keynote presenter, Mrs. Annabel Okoto-Gwang, and the discussant, Ms. Professor Ndebesa Mwambusya, directors of the board present, fellow CSO leaders present, and fellow human rights defenders. Permit me to take this opportunity to welcome you and thank you all for honoring our invitation to the opening ceremony of the Annual General Meeting 2022. My task this morning is a simple one, and that is of welcoming and informing you that this is the 5th AGM of the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders Uganda, and it is being held in accordance with the constitution of the coalition, which is a requirement to hold an annual AGM every year. I would like to express my appreciation to the different actors that have enabled us to hold this event, mainly our membership that constitutes the AGM, the board of directors headed by the chairperson, Mrs. Margaret Sekaja, and other directors, and the different development partners who have supported us since establishment. The coalition has made tremendous progress amidst the different challenges faced during the pandemic, that's the COVID pandemic, and of course the suspension of our major funder, the Democratic Governance Facility. However, I must state that we have been able to build resilience and manage to sail through until today. Most of the progress realized shall be presented in the progress report when the AGM gets into its core business of accounting to its membership, who are yourselves. With these few remarks, permit me to introduce and invite the chair of the executive board to address you. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank my team members from the Secretariat for all the efforts and time they put in to organize this function. Thank you, Team NCHRD-U. Similarly, I would also like to express appreciation to the service providers for all the services and items provided to make this meeting a success. I thank you. I'd now like to invite Mrs. Margaret Sekaja, the chair of the board, to come and address us. Thank you.
Her Excellency Karin Boven, Ambassador of Royal Netherlands, Madame Annabel Okoto, present here today, Mr. Ndebesa, our academia from the university, and a good friend of human rights defenders, the CEO of Uganda Law Society, and everyone present today. Dear human rights defenders, today is a very important day for us, and I would like to start by looking at the agenda which we have today so that we know how the day is going to go. We are going to adapt this agenda, which consists of the following: communication from the chairperson, board of directors. Then we shall have official opening address, which is promoting accountability and transparency amidst ever-changing civil space context. We shall also have a keynote address on the future of NGO sector. After that, we shall have a review of the minutes of annual general meeting and matters arising. We will have a president's presentation for consideration and adoption of the 2021 National Coalition's Progress Report to be presented by the Executive Director. We shall have presentation for consideration and adoption of the Treasurer's Report of 2021. And then we shall have elections of National Coalition Structure Board of Directors and the thematic working groups. Then there will be any other businesses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, This will be the program for today. However, the morning session is for opening ceremony, and then we shall go through the annual general meeting program later on. Could I ask for you to propose to adopt this agenda for today? Anyone? Anyone? Yes? Someone here? Could you get her the microphone?
Yeah, good morning, members. I'm Katama B. James from Chibuku. I stand to propose the adoption of the agenda to take us forth.
Thank you, Mr. Katama. Any seconder? Yes?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. My name is Robert Nchdr-U. I'm from Uganda, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Environment Shield. Having read and appreciated the agenda, I stand to propose that we second the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The agenda is adopted for today, and we can now start on our agenda as it's stipulated. This is the communication from the Chairperson, Board of Directors. Before I go into details of my speech or welcoming remarks, could we have a moment of silence for all human rights defenders who are departed from us and recognize their contribution to the work of human rights defenders? A moment of silence. May their souls rest in peace. Can we also have a moment of silence for the people we lost in a very bad accident which took place in Fort Portal just about a day ago? We do recognize it's a great loss to the nation. We hold a moment of silence for them also. May their souls rest in eternal peace. Thank you very much. With my remarks, I want to recognize our chief guest, Ambassador Karin Boven of the Kingdom of Netherlands. I would also like to recognize all the other members of the international community who are present today. I would like to recognize all our other participants whom I've already mentioned, who have come to officiate at this function. Today's keynote address is by Madame Annabel Ogwang, and the discussant is Professor Ndebesa Mwambusha. I must mention that Dr. Ndebesa and myself at one time participated in the drafting of the Constitution. So as you see him here, he will tell you about the story, but it was a long journey. We were wondering how far we've gone, what we've achieved, and what is the future hold for us from the work we did together. Dr. Ndebesa, I recognize you fully for that contribution. I also want to recognize the other directors of the board who are here and fellow civil society leaders present, and also fellow human rights defenders. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome and thank you all for honoring our invitation to the opening ceremony of the annual general meeting. The annual general assembly is defined as the highest decision-making body of the coalition. It is responsible for electing the board that supervises the Secretariat. I would like to express my appreciation to the members and delegates for the confidence entrusted to the board, which I have provided leadership for the last 3 years. We have made tremendous progress, which shall be shared with you when the progress report is presented to you today. I would also like to appreciate the board members whom I have worked with very diligently during this period. Do we have some members of the board? Please stand up for recognition. The members of the board. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the work you've put in for the last 3 years and the time we've worked together. The success story you are going to hear would not have been possible without the support of the different partners, both local and international. I would like, in a special way, to recognize the people who have given support to the coalition over the years. And this includes the Embassy of the Kingdom of Netherlands, Wellspring Foundation, the Democratic Governance Facility, DGF, the Irish Embassy, Uganda, Danish Church Aid, DCA, GIZ Uganda, Defenders, Civil Rights Defenders Sweden, Small Media UK, America Bar Association Rule of Law Program, Fund for the Global Human Rights, Freedom House, CAS, EWMI, Civil Society Strengthening Activity, the East-West Management Institute, Innovation for Change Africa. Please give them a clap for the support they've given to the coalition for over the years to make it give the service it's giving. We thank you very much. The annual general meeting is important in a sense that we are going to have some new board members elected as required under the Constitution that governs us. Similarly, the election for other governance structures, such as the Technical Thematic Working Group, comprised of representatives of different human rights cluster groups, shall be elected, including regional representatives, to reflect the national character of the coalition. In a special way, I would like to thank the Secretariat and the team, which is led by the Executive Director, who have made the board proud but steering the coalition to greater heights. We have witnessed growth and expansion of the coalition's work and networks, both at the local, national, and international level. The mandate given to the coalition to coordinate civil society within the framework of the UN Charter-based mechanisms of the Universal Periodical Review has boosted its visibility and proven confidence to lead. I would like, at this moment, to request the members of the Secretariat to stand up for recognition for this great work led by the Executive Director. Where are you? Yes, some of them are. Please come forward, come forward. Come forward, coalition members. Let them people see the hands that are behind this success. Coalition members, please come forward. They look smart, don't they? Give them a big clap for the work they do. Thank you very much. The Secretariat, thank you. More people are coming. Thank you so much for the work you do. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just ask the Executive Director to introduce them quickly.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. On my immediate left is Mr. Edward Serchacha. He's the Advocacy and Networking Officer. He also holds the portfolio of the coordinator of the Universal Periodic Review Civil Society Consortium. Next is Madam Sharon Nakanwaji. Sharon Nakanwaji happens to be the Programs Director or Manager at the coalition. Next is the Princess Babirie Prosi. Prosi is the head or the capacity building officer. And the big man is here. He's the one who holds the pass, and that is Mr. Andrew Lubanga. He's the manager of finance and administration. Another key person is Madame Elizabeth Namuyanja. She's the monitoring and evaluation officer. Another one is Dorothy Kiai Niku. She's the protection officer. And this other princess is called Jennifer Alum. She's the administrator. There are other members who are serving at the Secretariat desk there. We have Mr. Frank Chigoye, who's a program assistant. We have Mr. Richard Engot, who is our transport assistant. Mr. David Muganwa, who is the caretaker. And Madam Joan Nabali, who is the accountant.
These are their names.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And this is Robert Kirenga, the Executive Director. Thank you very much. You can take your seats. Thank you. This year's theme is about promoting accountability and transparency amidst the ever-changing civic space context. While we all know and appreciate that civil space has been shrinking due to the responses of the state towards the ever-active and dynamic work of civil society in advocating for good governance, democracy, and human rights, we need to examine within ourselves on how far we have gone in addressing similar challenges within the wider civil society sector, and have a reflection on what we are doing and how we are doing it. We cannot have the moral authority to criticize the state for failure to abide by the rule of law, good governance, and promotion of human rights if in our own backyard we have similar data. I wish to acknowledge and state that the coalition has never had any audit query or any management letter issued from any audit reflecting any misuse of program funds as per the grant agreements during my term as chairperson of the executive board. I see that the clapping is not like you appreciate. I think that's better, that's better. We congratulate you, Robert, for the clean audits, for the good work. Otherwise, you wouldn't have attracted all these donors I see on the list. I hope the presentation by Ms. Annabel Ogwang, discussion by Professor Ndebesa shall instill positive debate on how we view the sector and how we can forge or move forward. In conclusion, I wish to once again welcome you all and to wish you fruitful deliberations during this General Assembly. And I also look forward to continuous engagement as advocate for a better working environment for human rights defenders. I thank you for your attention. And now, it's my singular honor and privilege to invite our chief guest, Her Excellency Ambassador Karine Boven, to address you all this morning. And thank you. Thank you for agreeing to come and address the delegates. Thank you very much. It has been drawn to my attention that our lawyers, Kagwa and Kagwa advocates, are also here. Mr. Mbabazi Nicholas, please stand up. Miss Sheila Ndomerire, and Mr. Alexander Senkombi. Thank you for gracing this occasion. Your Excellency, I give you the floor.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. My name is Karine Boven. I'm the ambassador of the Netherlands. Very honored and pleased to be here this morning. And thank you all for your introductions. It's my pleasure again to be here. And before I start my formal speech, let me explain to you why this day is also special for the Netherlands. Today is in fact a leave day in the Netherlands, the 5th of May, because we celebrate liberation, liberation from war. So we celebrate our freedom. That has a lot to do with the ending of World War II, of course, but in 2 days, so on the 4th of May and the 5th of May, we commemorate and celebrate, commemorate the victims of war. That's why we always have 2 minutes of silence also on the 4th of May. Yesterday evening at 8 o'clock, everything in the whole country falls still. It's quiet for 2 minutes, but today is a festive day. We celebrate freedom, freedom of war, freedom of conflict, and also commemorating all the ones we lost human rights defenders also in the Netherlands. So, Board of Directors of the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders, Chairperson of the coalition, all human rights defenders in Uganda and those present here attending this annual assembly, human rights organizations represented here, development partners, friends. On behalf of the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, I congratulate the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders Uganda for hosting this year's annual General Assembly. A few months into my role as the ambassador here in Uganda, almost 2 years ago, I already had the opportunity to visit the offices of the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders and engage with staff and representatives of women and LGBTI in the coalition structures. I was pleased at that time to receive updates on the important protection work of the National Coalition with Human Rights Defenders, while at the same time also understand better the challenges you are dealing with, and they are many. Dear guests, at the core of the Netherlands' foreign policy is human rights. Our strategic priorities are freedom of expression and internet freedom, freedom of religion and belief, equal rights for LGBTI, human rights defenders and space for civil society, equal rights for women and girls, international accountability for the most serious crimes. Part of our support to the human rights defenders is the Shelter City program. This provides the opportunity for the defenders to have a short stay in a safe space, to re-energize, get personal support and networks, and engage with allies. And we are glad to see that in the past years, many Ugandan human rights defenders have benefited from this program. And a few days ago, a new call was launched for the defenders to apply to this program. Dear partners, the Netherlands also provides the annual award, the Human Rights Tulip. It is an annual award of the Netherlands government to support human rights defenders in their work of advancing and protecting human rights around the world. Each year since 2008, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Netherlands has awarded the Human Rights Tulip to an outstanding human rights defender. And we were so happy and pleased that in December last year, Nicolas Opio was the winner of this prize for the work in the human rights discourse in Uganda. Over time, the Netherlands government has and continues to offer support to the human rights agenda through the DGF, the JLOS, and through the Defenders project. We are very concerned about the still ongoing suspension of the DGF and the implications it has on the NGO sector. Together with the other donor partners, we keep engaging with the government to find a solution for the current situation. Access to funding for NGOs, we know, is critical. The work of the human rights defenders is important, and even more so in times where civic space is shrinking or even closing. We recognize and appreciate all human rights activists, journalists, lawyers, teachers, environmental rights defenders, disability rights activists, youth, LGBTI, and women's rights activists who all stand up for the rights and freedoms of people in their communities. The theme for this year's annual assembly, promoting transparency and accountability in an ever-changing civic space in Uganda, is therefore quite timely with the emerging targeted attacks towards civil society. while engagement with civil society, government and development partners on the shrinking civil space is paramount, it also shows the increased importance for civil society to be well aware of the rules and regulations to decrease your vulnerability to these attacks. I'm therefore pleased that the Coalition, with our support, continues to hold regular member meetings to discuss compliance, but also other issues facing the community. Dear guests, the Coalition offered leadership on the Universal Periodic Review process as coordinator of the National Civil Society UPR National Stakeholders Forum. We very much welcome your efforts to engage civil society meaningfully on human rights mechanisms, and particularly in global mechanisms like the United Nations Human Rights Council. We, as the Netherlands, we follow the human rights situation in the country closely, with a specific interest in the state of human rights defenders. We are therefore well aware of the challenges many of you face on a daily basis. We see that specifically journalists, women and LGBTI human rights defenders and those in the extractives industry face many challenges and threats. It is paramount that freedom of assembly, association and expression are vital tenets of any democratic process. As the Human Rights Network of Journalists in Uganda described in their recently released report, press freedom is also shrinking, providing more pressure on journalists to do their work freely and independently. We've all seen the glaring images of torture victims being processed through the judicial process. This is worrying and deeply concerning. These are challenges that many of you deal with and are unfortunately not getting any easier. To conclude, I encourage all of us and you to keep reflecting. The Coalition has an opportunity to interact regularly with the EU Human Rights Defenders Working Group. It could be a good space for you all to channel pressing issues as and when they arise. We look forward to your fruitful deliberations today, and I hope we as the Netherlands can continue our support to your great work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Choir Master, asante sana. 1, 2, 3, go. Your Excellency, thank you so much for that moving speech, but very candid as well on the human rights situation in Uganda, but also the support that the Netherlands Embassy and government is extending to human rights defenders. Thank you very much indeed. I would now like to take this opportunity to welcome our keynote speaker, none other than Ms. Annabelle Okot-Ogwang. Now, Annabelle is the country director of Diakonia, and some of us know Diakonia or have met Annabelle. Annabelle is a feminist and unapologetic about defending women's rights. But Annabelle is very familiar with the landscape in Uganda in as far as human rights is concerned, in as far as civic space is concerned. Her work with Diakonia and in her past work, she has interfaced with NGOs and the work of NGOs. So she's the best placed person to tell us about the future of the sector. Annabelle, do we have a future? Do we have a future from your standpoint? Are we in the twilight? Is there hope? Is there sunshine? Please join me in welcoming Annabelle with a very warm welcome. Annabelle, thank you very much. And Diakonia is one of our current supporters and funders at the coalition. Annabelle, you have it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. All protocol observed. I am really delighted to be here today. I think it is, this is something I've hoped should have happened in the last many years, that I've known the national coalition. But like they say, it's never too late. I have already been introduced. I have been in the NGO sector for a long time. I can't say I'm an expert, though, but I can also say that I have seen the National Coalition from its inception. And this was through the funding that we used to give to HearingNet. And so I am really happy to see that the coalition has grown to this size. I am so happy to see the work that the coalition is doing, has continued to do. It really pleases me to see that even when we have a very difficult context we're working with. Her Excellency, the Ambassador, said our civic space is shrinking or even closing. Even when that is happening, I am really happy to be in a house full of so many human rights defenders, whether as individuals or as organizations. I'm really happy to be here. Congratulations upon your 5th AGM. I think it's a real milestone. And just to correct the record, we are not yet funders of the National Coalition, but we are in talks, and we would be happy to really make a contribution towards the promotion of the human rights defender work in Uganda. I have been asked to say something about the future of the NGO sector, transparency and accountability at the core. And I don't know if I will be saying anything new, really. But what I've decided to do is just come and share my reflections over the years that I have been in the NGO sector as an employee, a member of staff, as a field-based worker many years ago, as an administrator, as a programs manager, as a head of organization, as a funding partner, and as an organization that has also been affected by the very issues that we would like to talk about. So I will just be sharing my reflections, and I hope that my fellow discussant will come and you really take it to the next level. We all know that the sector is really on the spot. There is so much going on. It's a very fragile context that we are working in. It is a very dynamic context that we're working in. And I think that requires that we develop some agility, it shouldn't be business as usual. It cannot be business as usual. The way we used to do things even 2 years ago, pre-COVID, is not the same. I'm sure many of us have changed. We've changed our approaches to work. We've changed the way our organizations are structured and the way we deliver, just because the context is very, very agile. Now, one of the things that a lot of our organizations, a lot of us are actually, we work within the human rights context. And we know that there are there are core principles within the human rights framework. And we know that accountability is one of the core principles within the human rights framework. It is very good to be a human rights defender as an individual and as an organization. Now, if we are just to, shine the light on the principle of accountability and transparency, and just reflect and say, okay, so how are we performing? Does it matter that as a human rights defender, I am still accountable? And when I'm talking accountability, I'm not just talking accountability to those who support our work, not just to our funding partners. I'm talking accountability all around. I'm talking about accountability to the people that we stand up for, whose rights we're standing up to defend. We're talking about, you know, the duty bearers that we are actually also owe some accountability. It's not enough for us to, you know, share our reports with our donors, but what about those that are in our areas of work? The cultural leaders, the faith actors, the district local government actors, never mind that they may, you know, pose a lot of constraints to our work. So accountability is all around. But now what I want to really focus on is the accountability, our accountability as persons and as organizations, especially as organizations. And I see that there seems to be more and more people thinking that if everyone else is doing it, why can't I do it and get away with it? And what is this it I'm talking about? It is misuse of resources that we are custodians of. It is abuse of resources that we are custodians of. And when I'm talking resources, I'm not just talking funds. I'm also talking about the people that we work with and all the other time. How many of us are, you know, employed in 3 different organizations and drawing salaries from, you know, maybe our core organization, but we are all over the place doing many other things that also earn us resources that we never declare. Accountability means that you are going to be, when someone looks at you, they will be able to see through you. They can see you, they can feel you. They know what you're going to say, they know what you're going to do, because they have followed you, they know your actions, they can read you. How can we then hold the state to account if we ourselves are not being accountable within our organizations? How can we hold the state accountable if we are not using the time that we are being paid for well? How can we hold others to be accountable if we are handling the people that we work with very, very badly? I have no proof that there are a lot of situations where staff in organizations actually feel that, you know, when the head of institution walks in, or when one of the very powerful people walk in, a board member, they will want to hide under the ground. Why is that so? Why? How can we say we are human rights defenders if we are treating the people within our organizations very, very badly, very disrespectfully? We have heard of situations of sexual abuse and harassment in a lot of our organizations. Our dear young people who come in as interns are sexually harassed, they're sexually abused. In organizations, I know that you can't go on trips, specific trips, if you do not smile nicely to the boss and offer yourself. And a lot of the sexual violence is actually against women. I think it is quite rare with men. It is more against women. And so what kind of human rights activists and defenders are we building if we are showing that it is okay for you to use your body to gain favors, or it is okay for a leader to bear it all upon others, to use their power over other people, to actually abuse their power over other people? If we talk about the financial accountability, I think we all know what has been going on in the sector. We know some of our big brothers and sisters in the sector have actually been on the spot for misuse and abuse of resources within their organizations. And some of them have really been the big boys and the big girls, if I can put it that way. So what example are we showing? For me, one of the organizations that really hurts me to the core, that it is almost no more, is Human Rights Network, HRDs. And why is HearingNet in the space where it is? Why is it in the situation? Why is it in limbo? I think it is mainly because the big boys, and it is really the big boys within HearingNet, just refused to make the organization function. Run down the organization, abused the resources, and just have made sure that no kind of, negotiation or discussion will allow this organization to stand up. I'm saying this without, and I think part of what we should do as human rights defenders is name and shame. I am not apologetic about saying that I am really, really sad about, one of our key, HearingNet was really like, a trailblazer when it came to human rights. And I know what happened within the institution, and probably it is a reflection of what is happening within your different organizations as well. But I think what now really sort of like broke my back was the fact that we reached out to a number of you in the sector and said, please come. Can you please intervene? Can you help us resolve this problem? Can we talk to these people who have failed to agree? And none of you had the nerve, had the backbone to actually stand in the gap. So I'm saying, so what is our future as NGOs, as human rights defenders, if we are even scared of, holding ourselves accountable? Are we so powerful that we cannot, or we do not even want to be corrected or put on the spot? Why is it that people who abuse resources within the NGO sector are not, have not been arraigned in the courts of law? Have we ever thought about that? Maybe there are a few that have happened, a few cases. I have not seen the big cases there. But when we talk about government and we talk about the resources disappearing, then we're saying, yeah, let the law take its course. And indeed, a number of them are within the criminal justice system. So I think these are reflections that we need to take as those in the sector. So I've talked a little bit about the culture. I'm not going to talk so much about the democratic governance within our organizations, because I think that is another way of being accountable. I know that many of us actually invite our friends onto the boards of organizations where we sit. And, it's just, we just take a ride and, our friends will just endorse whatever. This is not what governance is about. Governance is about having people who actually are critical enough to hold everyone in the institution accountable. It is about good stewardship of whatever is put within within your space to manage. How can we have democratic organizations where we actually have democratic systems that actually bring people that are relevant within the spaces, people that will help us really be very well-governed organizations? I am sure if we look around, many of us will find ourselves guilty about some of these things. And I'm not here to really point fingers, but I am here to just help us reflect a little bit on how we could do things differently. Because the context where we are in now requires that we do things differently. It cannot be business as usual. You cannot be abusing resources within your organization and, on the other hand, have the moral responsibility to stand up and accuse someone else in government abusing resources. You will be shut up so quickly, and we will never hear about you again. And for me, this is what scares me about the future of the NGO sector, that if we do not clean up our houses, then we will disappear faster than this shrinking space will close, not because we have done enough to ensure that it doesn't close, but it will close because we have contributed to having the spaces close. I think I'll just end by talking a little bit about the rights that we stand up for. Many of us claim to be human rights defenders, but we are very selective when it comes to addressing rights or dealing with rights. I don't know if I'm wrong on this. I don't know how many of us would find a sex worker being violated or being harassed on the streets, and we will stop and say, yes, I am a human rights defender. I am here to support this person and help to address this issue. We are very selective about the rights that we want to deal with. Oh, someone there is clapping. Thank you. In the women's rights movement as well, there is also that concern that the mainstream organizations do not want to have anything to do with the promotion of feminism and gender justice. And by the way, don't get scared when you hear feminism. Many people think that feminists are these very angry women who just want to destroy men and, take over the world. It would be nice to have a session someday to just talk about feminism and what it means and how we can really use it to promote gender justice. Feminism is actually transformational. It is not just counting, okay, 5 women and 5 men, yes, we are promoting gender. It is about transforming all those barriers that disable women and girls from getting, reaching where they should reach. So on the issue of which rights, I think we really need to reflect, because how many of us actually stand up for LGBTI persons or people who are different from us? I think it is something that we really must begin to talk openly about, because we cannot be very selective about rights. We cannot say, yeah, I will work with women, but I will gay women, That is not an area that I want to work with. You can't say, yeah, we're talking about all human rights, or all whose rights have been violated, and you're saying men who have sex with men, that area is not an area that I need to go into. I want to challenge us to become more open-minded and seek for information. Come to some of us that have this information. We are actually willing to share information with you to help you walk the journey. And you do not need to like people who are different from you. You just need to recognize that this space was created for all of us. Even for those who are very strong faith believers, God created all of us equal. So at what point did we begin to, segregate and say, okay, girls, you don't need to go to school, you go get married, and, you don't even need access to good health resources. You who are structured like this, move into that corner. So these are things that were socially constructed, and we can actually deconstruct them. I want to challenge us to just look at the human rights framework and understand that human rights are for all of us. Also for us to understand that we are as much accountable as we ask anyone else to be accountable for the rights of all citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annabelle. A round of applause for Annabelle. Annabelle, the future of the NGO sector. Do we have a future? Yes, we have a future. There is still hope. Thank you very much, Annabelle. Thank you so much for that very candid keynote speech. Very soul-searching. It takes us back to our own organizations to reflect on where we are in terms of transparency and accountability. And the theme, just to remind ourselves, promoting accountability and transparency amidst the ever-changing civic space. Thank you so much, Annabelle. I now would like, in a very special way, to invite our discussant. Very well known, an ardent human rights defender. And he uses the pen. Professor uses, how many have seen articles on the professor? All of us. Professor, I saw one where you wrote during the elections when the president did not acknowledge his opponents. And you said it was bad manners not to acknowledge. Professor is a very candid writer, but also a speaker. Professor Ndebesa is a senior lecturer of history and probably might have changed in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences at Makerere University. He's an ardent human rights defender. Professor, no other person. Please join me in welcoming Professor. Thank you so much, Professor Ndebesa. The floor is yours. Do we have a future, Professor? I'm sure you'll give us a real straight answer.
Yeah, thank you, Shira, for that kind introduction. Mwambusi Ndebesa is my name. They have already introduced me. And I hope I'm safe because I am a human rights activist and I am among defenders. Am I safe? I hope I am safe. She asked me a question. Maybe let me start. Since I'm a discussant, I don't know. She's widening the scope. Do we have a future? Yes and no. It doesn't matter whether you will still be existing or shall still be existing. Let me include myself. 10 years, 20 years from now, it is the nature of existence. Because you can have a future which is irrelevant. Shall we have a relevant future? To me, that should be the key question. You can exist as a human rights defender when human rights are being violated and we are not defending them. But you still exist as a future. It is the nature of the future that we shall be having. So having said that, I've been introduced as a lecturer at Makerere University. I'm actually on the way out. But I've been in the trenches also in the civil society world as an advocate. And I have been there in many respects than one. And maybe one which I may need to mention, which some of you may not know, but some do know. I am in the governance field in the NGO sector. I am actually the chairman of the board of governors of Siatini, Uganda. And I think some of you are familiar with Siatini, Uganda. And so I am there in that respect, but at times I also do some work, or I've been doing some work even in the Foundation for Human Rights Initiative and Greece, Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies, among others. So that is, I am part and parcel of the NGO sector or civil society sector generally, and I have been in the trenches for a long time, maybe longer than most of you. Madam Margaret Sekaja was talking about how we also made a contribution to the making of the Constitution as researchers. Actually, there was a research team attached to the CA delegates, and we were doing that backup with her there during the CA days. So anyway, let me come back to the exact discussion here. As you know, and I have been saying here, we are now in a changing environment. And I think if I remember my things fall apart or some other Chinua Achebe writing, he said that since man has learned how to shoot without missing, the bird was saying that I have also learned how to fly without perching. So since the environment, the landscape of civil society is shrinking or is threatened by many factors, others external, others internal, others even global, financial, state, and all these, then civil society or NGOs have to do something in order to survive. And not only just survive, but be relevant. Not only have a future in existence, but a future that fulfills the mandate that, or the claim that we in civil society or NGOs claim to undertake. Not only just saying that we are there for the sake of being there, because NGOs in most cases have become professionalized and they have become careerists, and therefore they may not be doing what is assumed, because NGOs are assumed to be near the people. Are we near the people? They are assumed to be transparent. Are we transparent? They are assumed to be accountable. Are we accountable? They are assumed to be non-bureaucratic. Are we non-bureaucratic? They are assumed to be non-corrupt. Are we non-corrupt? So let's not go by the assumptions. Let's be real to our mission, our cause, and what we claim to be. Now, for the NGO to be effective in what it is doing, it must be legitimate. It must have legitimacy and credibility. Actually, successful NGOs and unsuccessful NGOs are distinguished by legitimacy. When you are not legitimate, you will not be effective in your mission. And to be legitimate, you must have good governance, as they say, all those things that stand for good governance. But for the case of our discussion today, it is transparency and accountability. What we are doing here today in this discussion, which is a precursor to your elections, is actually doing self-criticism. And self-criticism is not a weakness. I want to say it from the beginning, that self-criticism is not a weakness. When you are doing self-criticism, it is not to say that because you have pointed out your weaknesses, therefore you are useless. No, it is actually critiquing, not criticizing. We are critiquing ourselves. To critique means to point out weaknesses with a view to being stronger, to strengthening what you are doing. As opposed to criticism, when somebody is criticizing you or you are criticizing yourself, in other words, you are more or less saying that I am useless and I should possibly be disbanded or stopped. No, this is self-criticism, which is a critique of the challenges of NGOs internally. This is not to say there are no external challenges. Let's not say that NGOs are weak because of their internal challenges only. There are external challenges that maybe is not a subject for today, but they are there and they are very known, those that have been constraining the civic space. But now let's talk about the internal ones in our self-criticism in order to emerge stronger and survive relevantly. Not merely surviving, but surviving relevantly to the mission and the missions we have undertaken to do. Now, when it comes to accountability, I think the presenter touched on it. It is not only upward accountability, there is upward accountability, horizontal accountability, and downward accountability. Now, the upward accountability, I think, is the accountability to the development partners or donors or whatever case we may want to say. That is the upward accountability. Now, the horizontal accountability would be, for example, how management is accountable to the rest of the secretariat, or how management is accountable to the boards, or how even a single NGO is accountable to the fraternity of the NGOs. We need to have that horizontal accountability. Other organizations do have them, and they are strong. I think the one of the NGOs is weak. I am talking about self-accountability within the NGO fraternity alone. When you go to the media, for example, I think they have something like the press media. Their own association that holds them accountable, and they don't have to wait for the state to crack on them, although it does, but they also have their own internal. Of course, it has its weaknesses. The lawyers do have, the Law Society and all that, they do that one, the internal. Ours, we need to strengthen it also. There is the NGO forum. There used to be Geneva. I don't know how active it is in, and even you, now the coalition here, you are supposed to be, in a way, holding your membership accountable. So let's have that horizontal accountability. Then there is a downward accountability to the citizens or to the people we claim, we assume to be giving a voice, to be speaking for, to be defending. There we need also to account to them, and that's when we shall have legitimacy, and that then legitimacy and credibility will strengthen us. Our voice will be heard, whether within the citizens, so that they can support our cause, because when we do advocacy without support of those we are advocating for, our advocacy will be weak. And indeed it is weak in Uganda. As you know, the state normally pounces on us, they stigmatize us. These days they say we are agents of foreign forces. I heard the president the other day talking about the comprador. We used to use that word when we were still talking Marxism, that we are agents. So the NGOs can also be called compradors, that NGOs are agents of foreign interests or foreign forces. The state normally uses that stigma. They say these are family breakers. I think the presenter was talking about. They can say that we are here to destroy African traditional culture. You have heard that one. Now, all those can easily derail us and make the people we are supposed to be advocating for shy away from us. How do we avoid that? We have to be accountable to them. Accountability is not only financial, it is also social accountability. There is political accountability, social accountability, financial accountability. I think the presenter emphasized and presented very well the issue of financial accountability, but there is also social accountability, there is also governance accountability. So when it comes to governance accountability, are we as NGOs accountable to the boards? Are also the boards accountable also actually to management and to the general citizenry? Because accountability should not be looked at only in financial terms, but it should also not be looked at only from one direction. It can also be looked at in terms of our development partners or donors. They should also have account. They should also account to the citizens, by the way. As we account to them, and we should, because we are using taxpayers' money from other people, but they should also be accountable to us. There is a sense in which also our friends should also be accountable to us in a certain sense, and to make our work very, very smooth and run smoothly, so that we all as stakeholders work hand in hand and be strong. Because their space is also shrinking. If the government could close the DGF, that means DGF space is also not safe. And if they can do that to DGF, what about us? Anyway, when we are accountable to our citizens, that's when the citizens can also support us. And with the support of the citizens, then the space will be expanded. When we remain alone and we are not accountable to them for one reason or another, then we shall be weak. And accountability can take different shapes. We have to be careful, because we shall lose legitimacy, or we have a legitimacy crisis, a legitimacy deficit. The way we also conduct ourselves to the general population matters a lot. If, for example, the general population finds you driving a vehicle of an NGO of 300 million shillings, 400 million shillings, they will doubt you. If it is self-bought, private or whatever, but that it is an institutional vehicle, you are driving a vehicle as the manager, director, whatever, of 300 million, the money of an NGO, you lose legitimacy, and that is where you can be looked at as weak. In management and in governance, we have had weaknesses. We need self-criticism so that we overcome them and become strong. I want to comment on the issue of management or governing NGOs or whatever. which people have talked about. There is this founder member syndrome. You find a founder member becoming too strong for the organization. Then how will you start telling President Museveni that he has also become overbearing on the government and ministers and everybody, when you, as also the leader of an NGO, has also become overbearing, and you do not also want to leave, because we have those cases also where the board, even the board members like us, as well as the management, you find somebody has been there for the last 25 years since the organization started. So how will you tell President Museveni also to leave, to have term limits when you don't have term limits? Those are challenges. Self-criticism. This self-criticism that we can back on and move ahead. You are not accountable to the board. You actually, the board is subordinate to you. There are some NGOs where you find the board is subordinate to management. The director is the one who appoints them, and he's the one who calls for the meeting. He sets the agenda, or she sets the agenda, and dictates what is going on, and the meeting is over, and then you lack that accountability. We need accountability to each other. By the way, this even goes to our development partners and donors. We are in the, I'm not necessarily referring to my NGO, but generally, we who are in the governance, yeah, you can get problems also calling for accountability and transparency from your management, your secretariat, because if you touch one, the donors will not give you money. They will say, we know so and so is the one we always give money. If you remove that person, we shall not give you any more money. And indeed it happens, and that comes now from that level. You touch them, you find funding is now not to the organization. It is normally attached to individuals that they have always worked with, and they continue to work with, and those are the only ones they trust. And you remove that person, you will not get the money again. That is also another challenge within the NGO regime. Now I'm talking about the NGO regime generally, not only at the secretariat level. So we need to avoid abusing our power in more respects than one. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. If the NGO board has absolute power, it will abuse. If the NGO management has absolute power, it will abuse. If the director has absolute power, he or she will abuse. If the donors have absolute power, they will abuse. Now let's not abuse power. Let's have that self-criticism such that we have checks and balances. We talk about checks and balances lacking in government. We also need them in the NGO sector. Let's check ourselves, including, as I have pointed out, having that check. And I think from now, I would want to suggest that we strengthen our own self-criticism, our how do I call it? Self-regulation, yes. We need to strengthen our self-regulation. Supposing that self-regulation body, if it is transparent and is based on principles, identifies an NGO and says, this NGO, you are out of order. I know even the donors will shy away from it. And because of that fear, then all the NGOs are going to behave accordingly. And maybe the government will not always have the excuse, because it is looking for excuse either to delegitimize us or actually intervene or interfere for that matter, like they have been doing anyway. So we can somehow keep them off, that is the state, by having that self-regulation. We could also have maybe the donors also slow down on their demands for our reporting, because we are reporting too much. You are reporting this, reporting to, you have 5 donors, you are reporting to 5 of them, you are accounting to them. At times you can't go to the field now to do your work because you are reporting. But why do they do that? They know that we embezzle their funds. But what if we had our own self-regulation, mechanism of self-regulation, or strong bodies, so that there is internal regulation at the NGO level and across the NGOs, so that sometimes also we get more space, because our space can also be shrunk by demands of our donors, as much as it is shrunk by the state and by other forces that may not be in favor of civil society working. So let's be transparent, let's be accountable at all levels, upward, downwards, horizontal, in order to have self-criticism, self-regulation. We reduce our weaknesses in order to break even, because we are living in an environment that is very, very constraining, as you very well know. But also we have got our internal weaknesses that have led to our weaknesses not only in governance, but also in our work. To be true to ourselves, I think we are not doing very well in keeping the political space and the other spaces open, or in policy making processes and the like. And even defending ourselves. Let me come to defense. The state closed some NGOs a few months ago. Were they 40 what? 54. And we are here looking on. What are we defending? 54, all of them, were all of them in the wrong? No, some may have, but some may have been closed because they are vocal. And then we are here defending what? You are defending, 54 have been closed. Me, I'm not closed. Let me continue working. Tomorrow is this one. Today, tomorrow it is going to be you. We have to have, we are supposed to be a coalition or a network, isn't it? Have we built sufficient social capital? You are conversant with the concept of social capital, don't you? Are you? Yeah? NGOs will be strong when they have got social capital. They have got a strong network. And they will do that one when they stop or they reduce competition among each other, because that's another weakness. Self-criticism now. Another weakness is concentrating on competition for resources amongst ourselves, and we weaken our self-regulatory mechanism. We should reduce that competition. I know we can't get rid of it. It is almost natural, especially when you are not self-sufficient, but we should reduce that one and strengthen our social capital, and it is that social capital that is going to Shira, you asked me, do we have a future? We cannot have a future unless we strengthen our social capital, or unless actually we have social capital. These networks, these coalitions need to be stronger than they are now. And they don't attack one NGO and the rest just go home and say, maybe we have reduced competition. When we go to ask for donation from our friends, then we shall be fewer. Or if the other one has been getting more, now I'm going to get a space to get them. No! Tomorrow they will close you. Because there are very many ways in which they are going to constrain us, including financial mechanisms, financial what? There is this Financial Intelligence Authority, now NGO Bureau, now police, now this and that. Let's come together and overcome our weaknesses internally, in the at the organization level, internally as the NGO sector. And when we are strong and we strengthen our social capital, then our future will be guaranteed. There is nobody else who is going to guarantee the NGO sector and space other than ourselves. Do the Baganda say Nkobazambogo? Is that what that means? Am I right? On that note, I beg to leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nkobazambogo. Thank you very much, Professor. Please give him another round of applause. Asante sana. Start it. Okay. That is the professor. It had to be as candid as that. Social capital, self-criticism. Thank you so much, Professor. We could not have gotten those two speakers that have complemented each other so well. Thank you so much to the organizers. Because of time, we would have really wanted a plenary, but because of time, we'll find a slot within our program to speak through some of the issues that both Annabelle and Professor Ndebesa have spoken about, but we need to run. We are going to move this way. Chairperson, we are going to express our appreciation to some of our partners who have worked with us in solidarity as the human rights movement in Uganda. That is one. So Chairperson and the ED, you are going to officiate that. We shall then have a vote of thanks from the district, Wakiso Human Rights Chairperson of the district committee, the Human Rights Committee in Wakiso is here. Mr. Eli Kasirie, please welcome him. Eli is there. Our chief guest, we have the district chairperson of Wakiso Human Rights Committee right here who will give us a vote of thanks. We shall very quickly run out for a photograph with our chief guest before she actually leaves, and then we shall go for tea. But just up there, we have the digital clinic, the digital security clinic. As you go for tea, please pass by the digital security clinic. So, ED, Bob, and chairperson, please come and express our appreciation to just 3 of our partners who have worked with us in solidarity as a human rights movement in Uganda and supporting human rights work.
Thank you, our Master of Ceremony. Thank you, our chief guest. We have some placard here as a message of appreciation, and it reads as follows. The National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders, Uganda, wishes to express our deepest gratitude to the Royal Netherlands Embassy for the partnership and solidarity towards ensuring the protection of human rights defenders in Uganda. We appreciate your continued immeasurable support and treasured partnership on this 28th day of February 2022.
I just wanted to add that the Netherlands Embassy for this year have supported the coalition, but also it does other things which support human rights defenders. You heard in her speech, the shelter city, which is in Netherlands. When you want to recoup, you want to rest, or you've been subjected to attacks, they take you in for a few months or something for you to settle in. So we appreciate that, the shelter city. You can utilize it, ask more about it. The other aspect is the Tulip Award. They give out Tulip Awards. It's a worldwide award. But this time, it came to a Ugandan, Nicholas Opio. Thank you very much for recognizing the work done in Uganda by a Ugandan. I was one of the people who gave out an award, a Tulip Award, and that time it was given to a person fighting slavery from Mauritania. I was invited to give out that award. So it goes round the world. And also the shelter city, their city, their Hague city invited me to launch the shelter city when I was UN Special Rapporteur. So I really appreciate the work the Netherlands Embassy does here, but also the country as a whole. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, please come and receive this appreciation.
We shall stand up and also appreciate
Where is our photo?
the photographer. In our usual style, Commander.
Recognition of the good work and support you to the position and the campus staff.
The next award in appreciation from the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders Uganda wishes to express its deepest gratitude to USAID, Civil Society Strengthening Activity, managed by the East-West Management Institute, for the partnership and solidarity towards ensuring the protection of human rights defenders in Uganda. We appreciate your continued immeasurable support and treasured partnership. I think it's being represented by a director here, Mrs. Catherine Kanawahita.
They have also supported the coalition in doing a strategic plan. You know how important it is to have a good strategic plan. Thank you, Catherine and Fen, for the work you do, but also for the support, because you can look at all these people and the support you give trickles down to them. So Catherine is here to take it. Thank you very much. And please, some more.
Our last message of appreciation is from the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders Uganda, wishes to express our deepest gratitude to defenders for the partnership and solidarity towards ensuring the protection of human rights defenders in Uganda. We appreciate your continued immeasurable support and treasured partnership on this day. It's being represented by Madam Tabitha Netua, who is a director on the board too.
Defenders has been in the trenches, really supporting human rights defenders. And they've been supporting the National Coalition for a long time since its establishment, but they have actually supported the human resource within these people you saw here, strengthening their capacity and doing a lot to really give them visibility at the local and international level. So our thanks goes to defenders for this. And also we know that you are managing some of the finances for them as they grow their own strength and prepare their own staff to take over. Thank you very much.
It's a surprise. Thank you so much, Chairperson. Thank you so much. Let's do one round for all the three. Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Robert. I would now like to invite the Chairperson, Mr. Eddie Kasirye, in 1 second, just to give a vote of thanks on behalf of all of us, to our chief guest, to our panelists, to our chairs, to our CEO, and to all of us for being here for the opening, Chair.
Thank you, Sheila. Protocol observed. I will take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Eli Kasirie, Chairperson of Wakiso District Human Rights Committee, the only model district human rights committee in the country. And I'm privileged to be chairing this committee. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an opportunity and rare honor for me to be giving a vote of thanks at this very important AGM. And I'll start by thanking the National Coalition for Human Rights Defenders for putting up this historical and very well organized annual general meeting. They deserve a hand of an applause because it's not very easy and it's very rare that organizations put up such very, very well organized AGMs. I also want to thank the supporters or funders who have stood with the National Coalition for Human Rights Defenders, mostly those who have been recognized here, Defend Defenders, USAID Civil Society Strengthening Group, and the Netherlands for supporting the National Coalition. For us as defenders, it's an opportunity to have this coalition because it brings us together and it also stands in solidarity with us whenever there is a challenge. So your support means a lot to us and we thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to thank the discussant for today. It has really been very, very interesting to hear from you, Professor Ndebesa, the keynote speaker, Madam Annabelle Ogwang. We really appreciate your wealth of knowledge that you've shared with us. And I want to thank you because this comes at an opportunity when we are going into an election, when we are going to have new leadership within our coalition, and it gives us an opportunity to reflect on how to moving forward. It is a very tricky timing for us in the sector where we are faced with a lot of challenges, a lot of issues, but your presentations here give us hope that at least we can sit and reorganize ourselves and reflect and have a very vibrant sector moving forward. Lastly, not lastly, allow me also to recognize Madam Sekaja, the board chair. Madam Sekaja, I'm very humbled to be speaking when you're here. You're one of the people that we look up to in this human rights sector, and we are always proud to be having you in such forums like this. So thank you so much for coming. Lastly, I will thank our chief guest, Your Excellence, Madam Karin Boven. It's an opportunity that we have you here. Rarely do we have people like you who stand in solidarity with human rights defenders, but also putting up time to come here this morning when even you're supposed to be enjoying your public holiday. It's an opportunity for us, and we thank you so much. We want to appreciate the support that you're giving to us. Some 2 days or 3 days ago, I invited you and I received an email from you when I was launching my report, and it was an honor to get an email from the Netherlands recognizing what we do and requesting for a copy of our report, which I promise that it's very soon it will be at your desk. So we appreciate that support and the solidarity that you give us keeps us strong, and we know that as the sector, we shall continue delivering to our mandate. Thank you so much. I want to thank all of you who are here, and I want to take this opportunity to thank Sheila for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Wow, wow. Thank you very much, Mr. Kasiri, for those warm words. Your Excellency, in Africa, it would have been incomplete to say thank you without a song. So, Robert, 1 second. Robert is our DJ. in the human rights sector. He works with the Human Rights Center Uganda. He's a composer and a human rights defender. So Robert.
Thank you so much, Sheila, for the opportunity. Good morning, HRDs. Yes, I want to appreciate the Royal Netherlands Embassy because last year I also benefited by getting an award as one of the people who use music to promote human rights. So let's stand up, please. It won't take long. We are in the process of growing this anthem. Please repeat after me. I am a human rights defender.
I am a human rights defender.
Defending the rights of my people.
Defending the rights of my people.
Defending the rights of defenders.
Defending the rights of defenders.
This is what I do.
This is what I do.
So we're going to sing together. Sheila will not do the music because of time.
Okay.
Let's sing together. I'm a human rights defender. Defending the rights of my people. Defending the rights of my defenders. This is what I do. I'm a human rights defender. Defending the rights of my people. Defending the rights of defenders. This is what I do. We are human rights defenders.
Do we clap? Defending the rights of my people. Defending the rights of defenders. This is what I do.
We are
human rights defenders. Defending the rights of my people. Defending the rights of defenders. This is what we do. Hey, you lost us there. Thank you very much, Robert. This marks the end of our opening session. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you so much, our chairperson. Thank you, our panelists. Thank you, Chair Okwalinga. Thank you very much, our ED. We will now move very slowly, proceed to the photograph, the studio just out there. Take a picture with our chief guest and our panelists. Take our tea, and in about 20 minutes, come back so that we can now resume our annual General Assembly. Please give a hearty, warm appreciation to our chief guest, our panelists, our chairpersons, our ED, as we move to the studio. Proceed. Are we ready? Great. Proceed, please lead us. We can all follow now to we're taking the picture all together. The picture is for all of us. The tea is at the back of the room. Let me come. The tea is at the back of the room. Let's move quickly to the picture and then...
I'm talking about human rights. Everyone has rights.
Uppercut and the beat.
The young stars are still growing up, yeah. Human rights defenders, we have our rights. nabo bwe batyo. The journalists, abapoliisi, banamaje, ababaka n'abalala. Sabatuse chimu tununule gwanga.